And welcome in. Appreciate you so much for joining me here at Juck on Bucks as we continue with, several videos a day for multiple days covering signing day, wall to wall coverage here at Juck on Bucks. Why? Because I love it. It gets my juices flowing and it's exciting. Of course, we've already got some exciting news today with Jaquaden Guilford sticking with the Buckeyes. We will take a look at what this offensive class looks like right now. Without Chris Henry Jr., without, the guys that we've lost, Caden Dixon Wyatt. Matter of fact, I'll pull it up right now. Here's what the offense looks like right now. So now with Jaquaden Guilford in the class, officially signed on the dotted line, and assuming there is no Chris Henry Jr., which I'm not saying there's not going to be, there very well may be. I'm just saying this is what it looks like without him, without Caden Dixon Wyatt. Luke Fahey at quarterback, Favorite Key at running back, wide receivers, Jaquaden Guilford, Brock Boyd, and Jaden Ricketts. An offensive lineman, Sam Greer, Max Riley, Tucker Smith out of Arizona, Landry Breed, and Mason Wilhelm. 4 out of 5 Ohio kids, 2 of them very highly ranked kids. And tight end, Nick Latour, also an Ohio kid, as is Favorite Key and Jaden Ricketts. Look at that, man. I didn't even realize this. So you have got just Tucker Smith, Brock Boyd, Jaquaden Guilford, and Luke Fahey from out of state. The rest, all Ohio kids in the class of 2026 on the offensive side of the ball. Now, a lot of people not happy with the way things have shaken out in the last 24 hours with the offensive side of the ball and the lack of dynamic playmakers should the Buckeyes lose Chris Henry Jr. But a huge stroke of good news today, getting Jaquaden Guilford in the class, right? Remember, not about who you don't get, who about you. It's not about who you don't get. It's about who you get. And Jaquaden Guilford, Brock Boyd, a couple of really good wide receivers with very high ceilings. Jaquaden Guilford, a high ceiling as well. He's just got, he's more of a developmental guy as he's not quite up to snuff. But we'll talk a lot more about the class as we wrap up the class. Today's video is the second time I've shot this video. And it's the second time because potentially, and I don't ever want to say for sure, unless I put my own eyes on something like a tweet as it comes out on someone's timeline. What I'm seeing is a photograph of a tweet coming out that kind of goes against the earlier video that I made. So I'm doing it all over again. I pumped it out earlier, and the video is about the single weirdest story we've not only seen this cycle in Ohio State recruiting, but one of the weirder ones we've ever seen. Not just in Ohio State recruiting, but maybe in recruiting period. Nah, never mind. There's been so many crazy stories. A story came out yesterday about Legend Bay. Legend Bay, we'll just take it to the top. Take it from the top. Legend Bay, a quarterback at North Forney, Texas, and a quarterback that Carlos Lachlan offered early in the cycle, but Lachlan wasn't really pursuing him. And you didn't even know if would he even make a good running back. He's such a tweener, kind of an all-around, all-purpose guy, but unbelievable with the ball in his hands. The type we only see every couple of years. A guy that in the open field just sees it differently and has the speed to get to places other people can't. Verified track speed kid, just a straight burner, 10-3, 100 meter. Also powerful legs, hard to bring down. A different type of playmaker, electric. And it would have been great to get him, but I saw, one day he commits to Tennessee, didn't even register because Ohio State wasn't even really after him. The Buckeyes were fixated on going after either one of the top backs in the class, be it Derek Cooper, Jay Lamar, Savion Hyder, along with local Favorite Key. And if they couldn't get one of the top backs, they were just going to stick with one. Go after DGG, David Gabriel George, the big swing for the number one back in the next cycle, to stagger Bo Jackson, stagger David Gabriel George. Similar to what we're seeing with quarterback. You're not just going to get a 5-star every single year now and have a kid not playing that you paid a lot of money transfer out. So it's the smart move. It's the proper move with the budget. Of course, if you can get one, you're going to get him. But to go all in financially, it makes more sense to stagger it. So one back, that's how they were going to handle this. And then the news came down with the signing day issues that there's not going to be a spring portal anymore. And at that point, Ryan Day told all the position coaches, okay, now the guys you were kind of in on that maybe we had room for him, maybe we didn't. We now not only have room, but go get one more guy, every position coach. And we saw every position coach go add one more guy in the last 45 days. And that is a direct result of that spring portal being wiped off. It's an insurance policy to make sure you have more guys on the roster in case you lose guys you weren't expecting to lose late in the portal that you can no longer replace in the transfer, or after the portal closes, that you can no longer replace in the spring portal. So that's the result. And that's why everybody went out and got another guy. And Carlos Lachlan decided to try to flip Legend Bay from Tennessee. And he did. Legend Bay came up and visited Ohio State. He loved his visit. I talked to him after the visit. It was just like, usually you get canned responses from these guys after an official. And he was just off the hook, excited, loved Ohio State. It was his first time visiting. He was all in on the plan that they had laid out for him, which was an extensive plan in ways they were going to use him, all different ways, as a running back, as a receiver, in the return game. And he loved it. He loved the sound of it. And he was jacked. Now, he's 17 years old. Signing day is rolling around. And he's going to be 18 in 3 weeks. He doesn't need to sign now. He can wait till February. He'll be 18. He can do whatever he wants. But 24/7 comes out with this article yesterday. So I'm streaming live yesterday, and people in the chat are saying to me, Legend Bay might be held up till Friday. And okay, we're talking about Heartline. Not really concerned about that. And then somebody says there's an issue with his mom. So when I get off the stream, I go looking for what is the source of this, and I find the article. It's an article on 247, and it's an article by a guy named Mike Roach. I've never heard of him. Obviously a guy who covers recruiting, and he apparently has been involved with the Legend Bay situation and with several sources. And basically there's a family rift going on about Legend Bay. And I'm just going to read you the article. It's a wild story. So I'm just going to read it to you, because then I came back on, read this earlier, and not refuted, but I had my own version of events. So here is the story on 247. The noise was so loud that it caused an internal rift with his family, sources told 247. Bay expressed his desire to sign with the Buckeyes, but he also didn't want to upset his mother. Discussions went back and forth between both sides, since Bay, just 17, could not sign his paperwork without her approval. Sources near Bay braced for a wild signing day, telling 24/7 Sports a few weeks out, if they couldn't find a resolution beforehand, Wednesday could get ugly. If they couldn't get it resolved, Bay could simply wait a few weeks until his 18th birthday and sign himself. And that's what we were just talking about. This is just the early signing period. He can wait till February. They continue. Bay arrived at his high school on Wednesday morning. He told Ishmael Johnson of the Dallas Morning News that he was locked in with the Buckeyes, despite the news that offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach Brian Hartline was leaving Columbus for South Florida. Bay's table at signing day was adorned with Ohio State colors, pictures of him on his official visit, and Bay posed in front of it for photos with his teachers and friends. Now, that's interesting. I'm going to pause the article for a second there. So Bay comes to school, having just found out, and I talked to the family of another recruit who would have been affected by this news. Ryan Day was reaching out at 6:30 in the morning, telling everybody this news. So assuming Bay got that call as well, knew about the news, he only had a couple hours to process that news before he came to school. Came to school wearing no Ohio State gear and walks into the gym where they have several tables set up for their many student athletes who are committing to a school. And his got his Ohio State gear. As far as they know, as far as he knows, walking in that day, it's Ohio State. But he has just gotten this news a couple hours before that Hartline's leaving. And I would think, based on the conversations we had with him, based on how he was going to be utilized, he's not someone I was worried would be affected by that news. So the article continues. There was some uncertainty about whether his mother would show up to the ceremony since there was so much tension. Coaches at the school tried to mediate the situation to keep peace between mother and son. So they don't say she came, but I'm assuming that means she came for the ceremony because coaches at school tried to mediate the situation. Bay had a lot of love for Tennessee still, but felt that Ohio State was the best place for him to ultimately accomplish his goals, a source close to the situation said. His mother was more comfortable with the staff at Tennessee and insisted that it was the best place for him. Around midday, there was a report that Bay would be pushing his signing until Friday, but sources near Bay refuted that and felt that they were close to a resolution in favor of Ohio State. Quote, "It's almost done," one source said. "I think he'll be signed to Ohio State in the next 15 minutes. Bay and his mother retreated to talk privately about the decision and work out the differences between the two programs. There was an expectation that Bay would either convince her to sign or they would take a break and push the decision to another day. Those same sources felt that his mother's position was softening, which is why there was confidence that the Buckeyes would win out. After nearly an hour of talking by themselves, Bay stopped responding to phone calls, a source said, and the North Forney coaching staff received a phone call from an Ohio State staffer informing them that Bay had called and said he was signing with Tennessee. We're told that Tennessee offered the best compensation dating all the way back from when he made his commitment to Ohio State, but it wasn't going to be a factor. He was comfortable with the number that Ohio State was offering, and he felt the Buckeyes were the best place for him to develop. In the end, Bay felt the need to compromise in order to take care of his family, sources said. In his mind, sources said, sources, it wasn't a bad compromise. After all, there was a reason he'd committed to Tennessee in the first place. That said, nobody close to the situation saw the switch coming. Bay had been so resolute about Ohio State in the weeks leading up to signing day that they thought it would just take a little bit of reason, and by lunchtime, he had become one of the biggest stories of signing day. And that is the version they got from sources, and that is the article that they wrote. And that article is like, wow. Now, Legend, before we go any further, signed the paperwork, and he sent the paperwork into Tennessee. He didn't need to do that, but he did. So that is of note. It is also of note that in today's day and age, that means nothing. You can get on campus and change your mind today. It's not like it used to be. Like, well, I don't know what to tell you, bud. You signed the papers. So that really means very little, but he did sign the paperwork. Now, my thought earlier and in the initial video I made was after I read that, I talked to Legend this morning. And my thought was maybe there is some truth to all that story, even though it's maybe a little sensationalized. Maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe Legend himself had a change of heart. And I asked him, number one, about the table. Like, if you were going to flip, why was the table still set up for Ohio State? Well, they had it set up for school. He didn't know he was going to flip in the morning until he got the Heartline news. And that is the ultimate reason for him flipping. Heartline was going to use him like Tyreek Hill. That really appealed to him. So when I did my first video, I'm putting this all together. All right. So he's saying it's primarily because of Heartline. Maybe there was this turmoil and the Heartline thing was just kind of what pushed him over the edge, right? Because he was all excited to be utilized all different ways. And I thought he was going to be more of a running back than he was going to be a receiver. But maybe he was more apt to, look, I'm going to get my foot in the door. I'm going to show him what I can do at receiver, and I want to play more receiver. He straight up said, I don't want to play running back. I want to play receiver. So that's what he said to me. And I'm sitting here thinking, all right, this makes a lot more sense now. And then I released the video, and not 20 minutes after I released the video, this tweet starts floating around. It is a picture, a screenshot of a tweet. Now, I am hesitant what I believe on the internet anymore, even if I'm seeing it with my own eyes, because I have watched so many videos and shared them with my sons, and they laugh at me and say, Dad, that's AI, right? Okay. So they're my little AI inspectors. Apparently, any video with an animal doing something cool is fake now, guys. Number one, that was a lesson I needed to learn. If you're my age or older, you need to be hip to that. You can't watch a funny video with an animal anymore and trust that it's just an authentic funny video with an animal. It is most likely fake. Send it to my sons. They'll verify. But my thought is now, if this tweet is in fact true, this is without a doubt the weirdest story we've ever seen. So let me show you the tweet that's been floating around. And I am not saying this is true. It could 100% be fake or somehow generated. I don't know how people go about doing these things or what motivates people to do these kinds of things, but people do these kinds of things. They make fake stuff all the time. This tweet is no longer on his timeline. Here's what it says. Good afternoon. I was recently logged out of my Instagram and probably will be logged out of this account as well by my older brother, who has access to my account because I won't sign to the school him and my mother wants. Legend Bay. That was at 1:18. That was at 1:18. When you go on his Twitter timeline, it is no longer there. I didn't see it on his Twitter timeline myself with my own eyes. Just saw the screenshot being shared around. Several people tagged me in it being shared around after they had seen my original video. And this changes everything. Now, I've reached back out to Legend, of course, with the picture of this, asking if this is real. I've not heard back. But this is just bananas, man. Now, if this is real, why did he send the paperwork into Tennessee? Well, I've heard from some people, they have the belief that the Tennessee paperwork must have been forged. Now, that is just, look, I suppose at this point anything's possible, but that sounds like a stretch. This all sounds like a stretch. I don't know what to believe here, but I am holding out a little bit of hope that maybe, just maybe, this does end up Buckeyes in the end. Who knows? As weird as this has been so far, maybe it does. Maybe it does. If I hear anything else, I don't even know if I can trust that it's not the brother talking to me. What if it was the brother that told me that? What if it was the brother that said that it was Heartline? I don't want to be a running back. Who knows? Who knows, man? Not like I FaceTime with him. Crazy story, guys. Absolute crazy story. But maybe a little bit of a distraction. I mean, I don't want to say it's funny because it sounds, I mean, if it's true, it's a kid getting kind of screwed. And I was thinking earlier in the earlier video, I said, like, I'm thinking, would he have a reason to lie to me about it being Heartline? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I guess he would, because if you go online and read about this, like, people are just destroying his mom, saying that it's clearly money. She wants him to go to Tennessee to get more money, and what a horrible mom, etc. So if he's reading that, maybe he wants the word out that, no, it wasn't my mom. It was really this. So, that could potentially be a reason to maybe make that the reason. But, you never know. You never know, man. At any rate, I'm looking forward to what comes next of this, as if nothing else, it's a distraction from the total bummer that we have just seen some predictions come out that Chris Henry Jr. probably going to lean towards Oregon, which I don't get. I don't get it at all, man. Yeah, Ohio State lost Brian Hartline. Oregon just lost Will Stein. Like, you don't even know what offense you're walking into at Oregon. You know what offense you're going to be playing at Ohio State. You know the track record Ohio State has. You know that whoever's coaching wide receivers at Ohio State is going to be an absolute dog, and you're going to be in great hands. Can you say the same at Oregon? Well, Ross Douglas has just started there. I don't know. How have the Oregon wide receivers done this year? Why don't we check their numbers? All right, we got Malik Benson with 31 receptions. Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end, with 40 receptions. DeCorian Moore, 28. Jeremiah McClellan, 25. Jamari Johnson, 23. Gary Bryant, 25. Pretty well spread out. The leading yardage is 526 yards. Leading touchdowns is obviously Sadiq has 8, but the wide receivers 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. We've obviously not seen a ton of wide receivers make any hay in the NFL. Here I am just dogging Oregon, trying to make myself feel better. But Chris's sister's still at Ohio State. I guess I'm still holding out hope for that, right? At any rate, it's true. There is maybe a lack of explosiveness on the offensive side of the ball in this class. But when we look at classes, it's important to, number one, we know one thing: without Hartline, there will be no more shyness to use the portal when it comes to wide receivers. You know, that's his bag, and he can do that because he can continue to keep it cooking in recruiting in a way that nobody else can in the country. So he can do that. But the next guy going to have to lean on the portal. Question is the next guy in-house and gets promoted? If so, you'll be able to use the portal right now. If not, it'll have to be the new guy using it next year, because you're not going to have a new wide receivers coach before the end of the season. That's for sure, unless it's an in-house guy. And a lot of people are saying immediately, Keenan. Of course it's Keenan. Of course it's Keenan. I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, like, Ryan Day has made several hires recently, and none of them have been any higher than anybody expected. Every one of them has been off the board. In fact, the most obvious hire that ever would have happened is hiring James Laurinaitis as the full-time linebackers coach. And it took Ryan Day like 45 days to make that decision, to make James the linebackers coach. So, you know, I don't think for him, it's just like, okay, we're just immediately doing this. In addition, I think Keenan's an excellent coach, and I love to have him on the staff, and I'd love to bring in another excellent coach. If you promote Keenan to wide receivers, is that a promotion? I don't know. Keenan loves a tight end room. If Keenan goes to wide receivers, then you bring in another tight ends coach. It just doesn't have the same panache to me as bringing in a wide receiver coach. Then I guess that would be a promotion in my mind, if I'm saying the wide receiver position or that coach is more of a premier. It's more of a premier group. I guess running back and tight end are probably the two like lower end position group coaching gigs. But Keenan's done a fabulous job when it comes to recruiting. He is a dogged recruiter. There is part of me that worries, like a guy who's never played wide receiver at any level of football, to my knowledge, that there will be some recruits who don't have as much respect for that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you've never really played the position, but he's obviously coached with Hartline several years, been in the grind with him, been recruiting with him. So who knows? It seems like a pretty common sense move. Will we find that out soon? I doubt it. I think this goes on. And if Day does end up choosing Keenan, it's not like a quick, like, yeah, that's where we're going. It's a process, a long process. Day will take his time with it. So at any rate, that's where we're at as I'm babbling on here. And of course, if anything else drops, we will have a new update, and we will also be going through the whole class dude by dude, and then a comparison with the 2025 class when things are finalized. And all we're waiting on now is Chris Henry. That's it. We're just waiting on that, and everything will be good. As far as the guys in the class, every single one of them will be an early enrollee, except for Tucker Smith. Talked to Tucker this morning. Tucker not going to be enrolling early, but man, he's amped up. Can't wait to get to school. But he is going to be down in Arizona until his high school senior year is over. So that's that with that. Appreciate you guys for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Juck 'em Bucks out.